Hello everyone, and welcome to Symphony Preview on Helena Civic Television. My name is Cameron, the Helena Symphony's Director of Development, and I am joined today by Maestro Allan R. Maestro, thank you for sitting down with us and talking about one of our upcoming Masterworks concert, Masterworks V. I understand that we have an incredibly exciting soloist that will be coming to Helena for this concert. Can you tell us a little bit about what we have in store?
Yeah, and you know, when we think of clarinet, and this, a year and a half ago, we brought Ricardo Morales here for a Mozart by Candlelight. Only 500 people could attend. It was in a smaller venue. And most people came probably because they heard Mozart. Everybody left thrilled they came because of Ricardo Morales. Mm-hmm. You know, we think of great pianist and violinist and cellist. We rarely think of the great clarinetist because they're mostly principals in other orchestras. They're not making a career as soloist. Ricardo Morales is indeed one of those who makes his career as a soloist, but mostly as an orchestral player. He is the principal clarinet for the Philadelphia Orchestra, where I'm from. That's how we met. He's originally from Puerto Rico. All of his brothers are all musicians, but Ricardo is the legendary one. And at 19 years old, he became the principal clarinet at the Metropolitan Opera. And shortly after that, he became the principal clarinet at Philadelphia Orchestra. And within a few years, was offered the principal clarinet for the Berlin Philharmonic, the London Symphony Orchestra, and the New York Philharmonic, and he actually went to New York for a few months and was doing Philadelphia and New York back and forth. And he decided that the Philadelphia sound was where he belonged. His wife, incidentally, is also a violinist in the Philadelphia Orchestra. So he's truly remarkable human being in the sense that if you were to meet him on the street, you would felt like you met your best friend and the guy that's going to tell you jokes and laugh every 5 seconds with you. He's just this jovial, beyond easygoing guy. And we've performed together now a handful of times, and we just get closer and closer as buddies. And when we hang out, we almost never talk about music. We talk about a million other things just in our lives, and we just laugh all the time. And but yet, when he picks up the clarinet, it's like he's transformed in this completely different human being. Mm-hmm. The newest clarinets that are being made today out of one of the greatest companies are designed for him. Mm-hmm. He's like the showpiece for it. And these beautiful instruments. And when he came here to do the Mozart Clarinet Concerto, people thought, I mean, I heard people say, I never realized what a clarinet sounded like. Mm-hmm. Well, they never realized what Ricardo Morales sounded like, truly, because it's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost a freak of nature. It's beyond virtuosic. So we just said, let's do more. He loved playing here when he were here, and he could play anywhere in the world. He does. Mm-hmm. He teaches at a conservatory in Japan. And he just goes to Japan once a month. I mean, he's just wanted everywhere in the world. But he said, no, I want to come back here. Mm-hmm. What a great opportunity. So we said, why don't we do something completely different? We'll do the Clarinet Concerto by Aaron Copland, mm-hmm. Great American composer. He composed this for Benny Goodman, the famous legendary jazz composer, or jazz clarinetist. And so he wrote this piece knowing that he'd have to incorporate the American idiom of jazz in there. The first movement is very much like an Appalachian Spring, this beautiful, lyrical, pastoral-like, reflective moment with just for strings, harp, and piano, and clarinet. The second movement, which is usually the slower movement, the orchestra doesn't play at all. It's just the clarinet. Mm-hmm. And just really doing some really amazing virtuosic things. And that immediately goes into, without pause, into the final movement, where you swear you're in a jazz club. Very complicated stuff for the orchestra, especially the strings. And it just gets to the point where it boils over and just collapses in sort of a jazz ecstasy. It's not very long, but it's so remarkable to hear a clarinetist do that. I've done the piece a few times, and at times you think this is wild, you almost think it doesn't belong, and other times it finally crashes down, sort of like the end of Rite of Spring. You feel like you just went through something and you're not sure what. Because you don't expect it to end like that. And so Ricardo, just to experience Ricardo, frankly, play a scale is worth the price of any admission. So, and it's worth saying this is on March 27th, Saturday, 7:30, free on YouTube,
Yep.
on our Helena Symphony YouTube page. Anybody in the world can join us and watch this incredible clarinetist.
Definitely. You know, and we've talked a lot about how programming is very deliberate. You don't just kind of throw stuff together and say, okay, good enough. You know, when you choose artists to combine and when you choose a specific person to play a specific piece, you know, we've already done Appalachian Spring. Why did you choose to bring another Copland piece to the Helena Symphony this season and then mix that with Ricardo and Mendelssohn?
Yeah, so I mean, there's times when you do a lot of Beethoven or a lot of Mozart. I think having another Copland piece is fine. I mean, it's America's composer. And I think that, I don't think you could have too much Copland, you know. And so, and to do that piece, I wanted to pair it with something that was very different. I wanted to pair it with something that was far more epic in terms of expectations of symphonic music. And we're going to be doing Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in May, and I already knew that, but I wanted to pair it with Mendelssohn's Scottish Symphony. Mendelssohn is one of the few romantics that his ailment is not what we would think. His ailment was that he was so bloody rich that he kind of was oblivious to the rest of the world. He was taught by the greatest scholars, were his private teachers, like Johann Goethe, one of the greatest philosophers and writers. His father was a banker, and his father was also very well known, and his grandfather, and so they just told young Felix Mendelssohn to just tour the world. You and your sister Fanny just go around the world. Here's your private yacht, and just travel the world. So he arrived on the shores of Scotland at first, and he composed a little overture called the Hebrides Overture, and then went to London for a while, went back to Scotland, went into this old chapel where Queen Mary of Scots was crowned, and he started composing the opening and says, oh, this is the opening of my Scottish symphony. Started working on it, then decided to travel to Italy, put the Scottish Symphony away for 10 years, and then started writing his Italian Symphony. He says, I can't think about the mistiness of Scotland while I'm in Italy, you know, and so he composed an Italian Symphony. So very much influenced by his wealth. Had his father pay for personal translations of Shakespeare to be translated into German, so that way he could tap into Shakespeare and then understand the Midsummer Night's Dream, and he wrote a whole bunch of incidental music to that. So Mendelssohn's ailment was that he was very oblivious to the rest of the world, and that his lack of financial suffering or any sort of struggles in and of itself made it oblivious, and that his music is very fairy tale-like in a way.
Yes.
And it's amazing. And so this Scottish Symphony, even the very opening feels nostalgic. His music often feels nostalgic. Those who like that new show and the series of books Outlanders, that's like a huge thing. They would love this music because it taps into this sort of Scottish fantasy, which is also the name of a piece by Max Bruch, also influenced by Mendelssohn. Tapping into, the British Isles offer this sort of Brigadoon-like imagery. Brigadoon is the musical where it appears every 100 years and we can find our way in and out. And it's, the Scottish Symphony is very much like this. Right. That it's and it's epic. It's very long. It's about 40 minutes long, which was long for a symphony in those days. Not long by today's standard, but 40 minutes is long. And but it's this journey, and it's not that there's a program with it, but there's this sense of what they call the Scottish snap music. Ba-dee, ba-da, ba-da. That's what they call Scottish snap in music. So he uses that a lot, and in the winds, and it's playful, it's fun, and at the end, you swear it's a hymn from church. It's not, but you swear it is. And Mendelssohn, even though this is his third symphony, it was actually the symphony he wrote last. He wrote 5, but the numbering that we have today is not the numbering that he wrote them. He wrote his first one first, then his 5th one, and then he wrote his 3rd, or no, excuse me, his 4th, his 2nd, and then his 3rd. So his 3rd symphony, his Scottish Symphony, he wrote last. So it's his most mature symphony, and it's his longest and it's his most epic. And so he really gives us a really nice escape. And maybe, we're not far, not that Scottish is Irish, but we're not far from St. Patrick's Day and sort of thinking like that, when we do this on March 27th. But it's just where last concert was very much connected between this friendship between Brahms and Schumann. This is very much about being complete opposite.
Definitely.
I wanted this Americana Copland piece to be paired with jazz, to be paired with something far more profound in thought, and that it sort of satisfies our hunger on all ends.
Well, and I think that one kind of theme that ties the two together, along with Ricardo Morales, is this idea of artistic excellence. And artistic excellence is one of our core values at the Helena Symphony. We updated our mission statement and we came up with core values of what our organization means and represents and what we want it to accomplish and bring to the Helena community. Could you talk a little bit about our new mission statement, our core values, and how that influences our music making?
Yeah, I think we talk about first on why we exist. The mission statement in 1955 was fairly common in those days, and we felt like it just needed, we've been saying for years, and during COVID we realized this was the time. And it's very simple: to engage, enrich, and transform lives through music. And then we have values underneath that: diversity, financial sustainability, artistic excellence, education, and to make sure that organizational leadership, to make sure that we that our why is embraced by our what and our how. And ultimately our goal is to make sure that we realize we're here to save people's lives. We're here to impact them. Sometimes you hear a piece of music, it just helps you get through your day, helps you get through the next day. It might change your life. I've seen it happen. I'm not speaking in hyperbole, and it doesn't have to be symphonic music. I've been to other types of concerts, from rock to R&B to reggae, rap, where it just so impacted me that it influenced either something I thought about or I hoped for, or the way that I maybe envisioned my own life. And I think that's what music and the arts in general can do, but especially performing arts. Performing arts really allow us to express ourselves in ways that we might not do in our daily life. And to experience music being made, you're seeing it breathe life into it. It's not like we hand out the score. You're seeing it come to life right before us. And to watch it is even more exciting, not just to listen to it, but to watch it and to hear it and to experience it as it's being served. It's like being in the kitchen with the recipes already created, but being in the kitchen while the chef makes it, and you get to watch it come to life, and then you get to sit in front of it and digest it and experience it. I think that's what music does. And
that's why it's so important for us to have these concerts be live and accessible and available for anybody who wants to watch them. They are able to on our YouTube channel.
And I can't imagine going through a crisis like a COVID, like a 9/11, like the world wars, like these things that drastically affect not just you and your family, but the whole world. They say the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the world. Nothing has done this since World War II. 9/11 was much sort of globally, but it was not nearly the impact that this pandemic has had, right? So 500,000 Americans are gone. Other people are gone. This country has lost more people per capita than anyone. We've responded to the crisis fairly poorly, at least initially. And our community here, fortunately, has been great. And we hope it stays that way, but we want to bring people back to the hall. But what has been important is how much the arts has been there for us, and other social services and things like that, churches and things like that. But I believe music is like a church. It's like faith. It's the thing that helps our internals, and that very much affects our externals. These things, when we're impacted emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, it impacts us physically. Anybody knows that. We can get physically ill when our insides aren't good.
Definitely.
And so music has been a healing source, or an escapement for that moment, or just to tune out.
Yeah.
We all need that.
Definitely.
And so I think this is one of those concerts. The Mendelssohn is such a journey, and the Copland is such a ride. And this is a great concert to not only witness incredible virtuosity and brilliant artistic excellence from the HSO, Helena Symphony Orchestra, but to also really it's a journey for the listeners and the viewers.
Well, and we hope that all of you watching from home are able to join us for this journey, or tune out, or whatever you really need from this concert. It will be on March 27th at 7:30 p.m. and we hope that you can all join us. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for watching Symphony Preview on Helena Civic Television.